Now, Sports Talk with Broads. Here's Hunter Brody.
The Phillies just got their asses kicked in Atlanta. It was not pretty. It was a bullpen game that failed miserably. But there were a lot of positives that happened within the fight in Phil's organization today as Dave Dombrowski added to the squad in multiple different areas. He went out there and snagged a center fielder, snagged a relief pitcher, which ironically enough was David Robertson, of all people, who's having a sensational year in Chicago. And I always give Matt Klentak a little bit of a wiggle room with the signing because the logic behind David Robertson in the past, even though he failed, was absolutely 1,000% fine. It just unfortunately was an unlucky bounce, if you will. But I digress. You also have Brandon Marsh. I already mentioned the center field position, so shame on me. Noah Syndergaard. And realistically, there's not that much to tackle when it comes to what the hell just happened in game one of this mini two-game set down in Atlanta. I mean, they basically punted the game to begin with, even with an off day on Monday, and questioning possibly what you could do with sliding certain pitchers up if that is the case, if they felt it was necessary and if they felt that there was a lot of meaning behind this game. And I don't know if I'm just spitballing here. And I get it. Strider was ridiculous, and the Phillies offense clearly struggled after they took an early lead with a Derek Hall rip to the first base side. Matt Olson with his glove. The ball's trickling there towards the outfield. Ronald Acuna Jr. doesn't feel like making a play at it at all, charging at the ball at all. Okay, we'll take it. Here's Castellanos going from first base, and it was nice, but, you know, it failed pretty miserably after that in totality. There wasn't much with this game. It's going to be strictly really my thoughts on this deadline. And it's a little weird because as the day played out, my feelings were somewhat all over the map. So why don't we do this in chronological order? And by the way, I am going to go back for this episode. I want to try something again with the phone line. So instead of the live call, we do still have the phone line set up right now at 856-442-9805, the Anytime Hotline. You can call in and leave a voicemail, and I'll play them on the show if you want to share your thoughts. But of course, you can also text the Anytime Hotline and chat in the chat room as well. There's multiple different ways to get engaged with the show. So I just want to lay that out there. No live calls tonight, but you absolutely can still get your voice involved in the show. So first, and this is after Sosa. We knew Sosa was a move a couple days ago that raised my eyebrows because, well, you move on from what you do in the trade of JoJo Romero. That's not really significant. Camargo, though, is a defender, and you make the trade for Sosa. He's a defender, too, who can't do much offensively. You were scratching your head knowing that Gene Segura was going to return at some point, and you do have a bunch of infielders in Didi and Bryson Stott and Alec Boehm right now. It's hey, what does this mean? Maybe this is a multi-layered process. So we see the first move today being Logan O'Hoppe being moved for a center fielder. Now, before we got the knowledge of what occurred afterwards, I was a little shocked to see that Logan O'Hoppe, who is clearly going to be stuck with the JT Realmuto contract right now, so we get it. He's not going to be a long future move. He's not in the plans here, so clearly he would be in some sort of trade whenever the Phillies were picking up the phone to do something. The fact that it wasn't for a starting pitcher did make me a little bit uncomfortable because I raised the question. Look, he's the #1 prospect already in the Los Angeles Angels organization. That's not to tell you that he's one of the greatest players ever, and he very well may become a fine catcher, but catcher is a position that's not very valued in this league. It's the running back. You can find guys to hold the fort down within that position. The Phillies have their guy. I'm just saying, in general, the position isn't one that is necessarily high on the list of the franchises throughout the league and their thoughts. So when you think of a non-hitter in center field, and I'll get to his age in just one moment, was your best prospect. Well, yes, we know Abel, we know Painter, and they like some other pitching too, and Gary, but you look at those individuals, they're off the list. Your most valued prospect that you can move, you get a dude who can't really hit and is a center fielder with his glove. Is it worth that for an upgrade on Matt Vierling? And here's the argument that the Phillies want to tell you. You have him here for a handful of years, and we feel that there's something in his game that won't be hard to fix offensively. The tweaks to get his bat going and being a bit more effective is something they feel they can change internally with one of the best hitting coaches that we have praised since he has gotten here. We're excited about. So when he gets his fingertips on Marsh, that's something that can maybe have a little more sense of urgency where you can utilize his speed and things of that nature. If you can do that, fine. And here's another somewhat part of the equation you can factor in. If you finally get production out of right field, which I don't know if we ever are, I don't know if we will this year, maybe the contract in totality will still be fine when next year, the year after, whatever. Just thinking about Nick Castellanos long term, I'm okay with saying he's eventually going to turn it around. Before the right now this year, I don't know. The point I was bringing up is just look at the outfield totally as your three guys. If you're getting production out of left field the way that you are with the bat, and that pop is crazy, and if Castellanos does his job, can you live with, let's say, a really good defensive center fielder for the next couple of years if you can get that batting average up to about 240, 245, as long as the corners are, you know, lethal weapons? And the answer to that is yes, but I just have to see it play out. I thought it was an interesting risk from Dave Dombrowski to use Logan O'Hoppe in the trade for a center fielder that's just, in my eyes, a guy right now, unless they can change that. So you go to the second draft. Or the second draft. Well, we're not drafting any players today. When you go to the second move of the day, Brown for David Robertson. I love that move. This bullpen is getting pretty scary, and I'm saying that in such a positive light, which is so ironic because we hated this bullpen with Knebel falling apart early, Jose Alvarado having to get sent down to AAA. And now, if you think about slotting Robertson late into the action, you have so many choices here. You have Seranthony Dominguez, you have Corey Knebel, you have now Brad Hand, you have David Robertson, you have Connor Brogdon, you have Alvarado. No more Familia, hallelujah, he's gone. Odubel Herrera, hallelujah, he's gone. You end up moving on from Mickey Moniak late, right when the trade deadline was kind of slowing down and thinking that it might be done. Here comes the Angels going, yeah, Mickey Moniak, you want Noah Syndergaard? Here you go. Let's do it. Oh, man, he's going to get overpowered by off-speed pitch. Can you imagine saying getting overpowered by off-speed pitches the way that Mickey Moniak does? It makes me want to throw up. I love the late bullpen, which then it gives you some more flexibility if there is a starter that's struggling on the diamond. Here's where I think, though, if you're going to look at it as, and their offense is their number one identity, it just has to be. And, of course, Gene Segura and Bryce Harper hopefully getting back into the flow of things soon here. Bryce Harper did get the pins out, which is step one. And, you know, I don't know what fair expectations are whenever he does return. Is he going to be 300 right away? Is he going to have power? Is it just going to be bang? Bryce Harper, you're a fool for questioning if he could return just like he was when he was in an unbelievable stretch. You know, time will tell. If you go back to the Tampa Bay Rays, though, when they went to the World Series, what was it all about? Their bullpen. They were set up differently, and their philosophies were different. So there was more toxicness on your pen because, well, it was your bread and butter. I just wonder if you now start to lean on your bullpen with this extreme sense to it. It's August. over the next couple of months, is it possible that it's draining? You're relying on them too much. Now, you still have Zach Wheeler. You have Aaron Nola. If they go the distance, Zach Eflin, 60-day IL. I have zero faith in Zach Eflin anymore. And you think about the mutual option and what we were mentioning a little bit earlier in the season with some compensation for him down the road. I don't know if you're going to see a damn thing anymore because he's never reliable. He's not there for you. If your top two dudes are great on the bump, then the innings that need to be eaten by a lot of these bullpen pieces that we're excited about, not so much. I wonder, because I was going back and forth with Ricky Bo and Tyrone on the best show ever on The Fanatic, and if you guys haven't, you absolutely should check in 2 to 6 p.m. on 97.5 The Fanatic and NBC Sports Philadelphia Monday through Friday. But we were talking about what addition they make at the starting pitching spot, whether you're calling Noah Syndergaard, whether you're calling Maley, whether you're calling anybody else available, Rodon. Are they your number 3 in a 3-game set? Is Noah Syndergaard going to be pitcher number 3 after Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola in a 3-game playoff series on the road if you win one of those two? It's just a weighing out thing if you're Dave Dombrowski. How much do we go in? Because we're not the Padres who make a splash for Juan Soto and even more. We're not the Yankees right now for Benintendi, and then you're getting Frankie Montas. Like, this isn't what you're all in. It's not all in mode. But it needs to be more than just a Kyle Gibson and an Ian Kennedy for Spencer Howard type move like Dave Dombrowski did last year. And his motto is, I'm going to attack. When you saw Robertson and you saw Brandon Marsh, you basically knew at that point that one more had to come, because without that, it didn't make full sense. It was a little weird. It was odd. Where were they going? Is it 1 foot in, 1 foot out? It just seems blah. But when you see that they improved center field, they improved your bullpen, they improved your starting rotation, that smells more like what Dave Dombrowski is, while properly, objectively analyzing where you are. You can't be foolish and go too extreme, because let's be realistic. We despise Matt Klentak. Why? Well, because you were awful under him, but he did not build the system. And there needs to be a middle ground here where I'm happy that Painter and Abel, they're here, because I truly see them as a future of the Phillies franchise. It just comes down to also, where's Aaron Nola at that point, and where's Zach Wheeler at that point? Are they basically replacing those two, or is this more of they add to them? But when you look at Dave Dombrowski, we wanted a dude who gets baseball, that needed to restructure the franchise all the way from the bottom to the top team. Well, at times, that means you might have to take a step back. Instead of going on, let's hold on to that, because we got to build too. You have to build and also utilize your assets accordingly. And today, I think nailed that perfectly. That's a good description on how to do it when assessing where your team is in comparison to the others. They're definitely better than where they were yesterday. They didn't give up too much in my eyes. They still have their top prospects and their most exciting ones. Logan O'Hoppe, sure, probably on that list, but he was not going to play based off of where your contract is with JT. So, okay, calculated risk that I'm totally satisfied with. And then don't forget that while I don't love it, I'm okay with saying that Gene Segura returning and Bryce Harper returning are two players added at the deadline as well. I guess, and I threw this out there on the best show ever as well. If you think about getting Gene Segura back, I'd be pretty bummed, even though I've supported Didi Gregorius all season long, if Bryson Stott was the one to come out of the lineup. Is Rob Thompson going to value veteran experience in a postseason scenario over Bryson Stott? Or we're going to learn with the young bucks because, well, they're going to be the future here, and they need to test what it is. They need to experience that. They need that firsthand nature of being on the road, fielding a ground ball, turning two when there's 40,000 people screaming at your face. if this is the DD you're getting, well, then, yeah, I mean, Bryson Stott should play shortstop. Bohm plays third, and Gene Segura plays second. But where does Derek Hall go with Bryce Harper as the DH, left-handed bat, off the bench? I mean, things definitely do get different when that is the case, and I'm very curious to see what Rob Thompson does when that time occurs. All right, we are going to definitely listen to some of the calls that came in throughout that opening little monologue here. 856-442-9805. We will hear from Jimmy to start things off.
What's up, Broads? Not even going to really get into the game tonight because we all knew this game was going to suck the second the bullpen game was announced. But, yeah, I think overall a very good deadline for the Phillies. You get an outfielder, center fielder in Marsh who hopefully can reach his full potential. He's only 24, which is younger. He's younger than Bryson Stott. Hopefully he can reach his full potential and be the stable center fielder that his team has been looking for a while, not Odubel Herrera. Hopefully Noah Syndergaard, 4, can recapture some of his old magic that he had in New York. I'm not saying he's going to be the same pitcher, but if he can be a solid number 3 or 4, hey, I take that 100% of the time. Not to mention Sosa, not to mention the triumphant return of David Robertson. Overall, I'm satisfied. We didn't get a big piece like Soto, but realistically, with our prospect pool, we couldn't really get a big piece. So I think we made the smart moves, and I'm satisfied.
I'm satisfied, too. They were never going to get a big piece. Now, with Noah Syndergaard, it's funny, I haven't really even brought it up yet. Who is he? Who is this version of Noah Syndergaard? I think there's more in him. I saw Corey Seidman throw out a tweet of NBC Sports Philly about Noah Syndergaard and the way that he was handled through the Angels organization this season. So, well, he tweeted out a couple things. Thoughts from watching a lot of Syndergaard this year. Definitely an upgrade. In about half his starts, he cruised through the early stages, unraveled twice, one at Texas and one against the New York Yankees. The holding runners on thing is still a thing. Maybe even a little worse now. Base stealers are 25 for 26 against Noah Syndergaard. Now, there was also something else that I saw. Was it not Corey Seidman? Maybe it was Matt Gelb, who covers the Phillies for The Athletic. I'm going to find this. It just gives us a little bit more details on the way that he was used. I could have sworn it was Corey Seidman. So I'm going to look back again. Here you go. Yep, I got it. I just looked over it in the beginning. I apologize. Something to note with Syndergaard. Angels were careful with him in his first full season back from Tommy John surgery. He made 15 starts, 0 on normal rest, 12 were on 6+ days of rest, and 3 were on 5 days of rest. So, it's not the same Syndergaard on what you're thinking about with the prime of the New York Mets, and I don't think I really have to sit here and try and convince anybody that that is a true statement. But sometimes you go from a team that seems to have no life, seem to have no energy, and there becomes a new motivation when you see that a team is in the hunt. And, oh, by the way, you're familiar with this area. You're familiar with this NL East. Is it possible that that makes him raise his game and rise the bar a little bit with some sort of attitude that I can't wait to get on the mound and pitch for a team that traded for me, desperately needs me, is excited to have me, where I can help them make that next step to finally get them into the postseason? No, by the way, I was stuck on a team that's falling apart big time. Are they going to trade Shohei Ohtani, which would just be outrageous? And you think about Mike Trout and his injury that's been popping up, and then, of course, Anthony Rendon, and that contract has been miserable. So there's lots of failures happening. The Phillies pinstripes, just extra push, extra juice. It's not impossible, but I also feel that that's a defensive mechanism as a fan or as a sports fan of any respected team to try and convince yourself that what you did was going to pan out and work. We have a $10 donation from Skylar Baker. Thank you so much for the $10. Congrats on the marriage. Thank you very much. I know I'll get this money back when the Phillies don't make the playoffs. What do you mean they're not making the playoffs? By the way, what apps can I listen to the best show ever? You can listen to it on the 97.5 The Fanatic app. I'm not sure if the NBC Sports Philadelphia feed is on the My Teams app or not, but I appreciate the $10. Why do you feel the Phillies aren't making the playoffs? I think they are in position to make the playoffs. I would be crushed if they didn't make the playoffs because they're a damn good team this year. In regards to, let's keep it in reference, but in regards to that wild card position, that wild card fight, they should be in a wild card 3-game series. That's not being outrageous too much. That's not just overthinking and being biased because you want your team to succeed. That's legitimate when analyzing who they are compared to what teams are surrounding them. All right, we'll take another call here.
What's going on, Hunter? Just, we're not going to focus on what happened in today's game. Just going to brush that to the side. Overall, thought it was a very solid trade deadline by Dave Dombrowski. There were so many rumors about, Rodon, Maley and Syndergaard and everything like that. But at the beginning, I was questioning the Brandon Marsh trade because why are you trading, prospect that you said were untouchable and no Hoppy, then Ben Brown for David Robertson. But then when I think about it, I think Brandon Marsh, he's an A-plus outfielder, has speed. If Kevin Long can find a way to fix that swing, you might have something, and you also have control for him over 5 years. So overall, I like the move. He could be your everyday center fielder. David Robertson, very solid for the back end of the bullpen to add with Sir Anthony, Brad Hand, Corey Knebel, everything like that, just to make this bullpen even more better than it already has been. And then also, those two trades get rid of Odubel, Herrera, and Familia. So that's also a solid.
It's not a bad thing when those guys end up leaving your roster. A few things, though. The Marsh addition has been mentioned now by both callers saying, well, hopefully he could turn this thing around and be that offensive guy. I don't know about that one. I definitely have more questions than I should about the way that Dave Dombrowski utilized Hoppy. Maybe you just feel let's look at the entire package, and instead of dissecting who went where for each trade, if you were informed that X amount of players were going to go, and of course you know which players are no longer here, and you are going to bring in the 3 that I mentioned, does it really matter who went where as long as it's the 3 that you acquired satisfies you and excites you when thinking about what this Phillies teams can be if they maximize their potential? Yes and no. Yes and no. Was it worth it to use one of your better assets for Brandon? Is he going to change your franchise at the center field position? They feel more highly on it than I do. Fascinated, though. In regards to Dave Dombrowski mentioning throughout the day, or mentioning over the last couple of days that certain players are untouchable, I always thought that that was just a way for him to play the market. Oh, you want Hoppy? It's going to be tough because I'm not getting rid of him. Well, you are, but you can't tell the other teams that. Oh, Brown, we like Brown a lot. We're not getting rid of him. Mickey Moniak. There's always going to be something about being a first pick in the draft. There's a reason why he was, right? That's what you're telling yourself if you're part of another franchise. The difference is you're losing or leaving out the fact that, well, Matt Klentak screwed up. It's just that simple. So good luck. Have fun. You're going to lose a lot because he's just going to strike out a lot on off-speed pitches. Every single pitch. It's ugly. But anyway, those are my thoughts on what happened today with your fighting Phils and Dave Dombrowski. Overall, I'm satisfied. I can nitpick some things, but overall, they're a better team now, and I think their thought process based off of the current roster and the current landscape of other teams and the firepower that some of these other squads have, they're not in that top tier, but they're in a very highly competitive tier, and I think based off of that, I'm okay and understand what they did. Will it pan out? Only the games left will tell us that. Will Aaron Nola have a good back end of the season? He seems to struggle when we start getting to September. But he had such a good year this year. Do you believe in that? Do you believe that it will continue? Is there a reason why they didn't push guys up with the off day on Monday? Is it because there's fear that Aaron Nola might fold and might crash and might burn and might be too fatigued? You can't manage in fear, though. That'll backfire. That will hurt you. So I really hope not. All right, with that, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. If you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. Also, hit that thumbs up button as well. SeatGeek, promo code BROADS, gets you $20 off of your purchase. If you are a new SeatGeek user, that eliminates the fees. It's free parking. Get yourself to a game today. Thank you guys all so much for hanging out with me, and I will catch you on the next show.